I'm Dale Lawrence. Welcome to The Travel Show. Thanks for joining us. This week we're back at the Boutique Hansar Hotel in Bangkok to bring you the final program in our short series of highlights from the travel show. Now, David Kevin is one of the UK's most experienced and knowledgeable travel industry executives. He was in Thailand recently talking to hotel general managers in Bangkok and at some of the nation's most popular tourist destinations. I caught up with David at the Ariesom Villa Hotel in Bangkok, and I first of all asked him if the United Kingdom was going to remain one of the most important tourism source markets, not only for Thailand, but for countries right across the ASEAN region. David Kevin, thank you very much for going on the record. David, last year about 72 million international arrivals were recorded coming into this part of the world, to Southeast Asia. That was 12% higher than 2009, but that of course was a very poor year for tourism, wasn't it, with the global economic downturn and swine flu. And amidst all that, the United Kingdom remains a very important source market for Thailand in general and for the region in particular. Is that set to continue in your view?
Yes, I think it is. The UK will still be a very significant market as far as this part of the world is concerned, and particularly with Thailand. And Thailand will remain the #1 destination by a long way. The challenges that I see are more related to the UK economy rather than anything that's really happening within the region. We are going through very tough times in the UK. Disposable income is shrinking, and I think that's going to have more of an impact negatively rather than anything that may be happening within the region. But clients will still travel. Everyone is looking for a great destination, and they're looking for a value for money destination, and without doubt Thailand answers all of those.
And other destinations across the region,
Absolutely,
I would expect.
Because the cost of living once you're here is incredibly good value. So you can have a fantastic holiday here for a fraction of what you would pay in Europe.
Or indeed the Caribbean,
Absolutely.
Another area that I know you're extremely familiar with. Forecasts suggest somewhere in the region of 900,000 people will come here from the United Kingdom this year. So it's edging ever closer to the 1 million mark.
Yeah, the UK market on a number of levels will be very good. We tend to travel year round rather than just 3 or 4 months of the year. And in a general situation, our expenditure within a hotel tends to be greater than 1 or 2 other nationalities. Certainly if I compare the expenditure of the UK client within the hotel to maybe 1 or 2 other markets that come regionally, the UK spends extremely well. But it's balancing the effects of the UK economy against what is achievable here. I think if the figure remains constant, I think we've done extremely well.
I just want to raise one issue with you, David. You talk about the UK going through very tough times. We know that the coalition government came to power just about a year ago, inherited a massive public deficit, somewhere in the region of £160 billion. So belts are having to be tightened right across the United Kingdom. There's one additional issue, and that's the air passenger duty imposed. Actually, it was introduced by the Conservative government in the 1990s, albeit at a very modest level. The last Labour government put a number of increases on that. So it's now very expensive for a family of, say, 4 to travel long distances.
Basically, it's a tax that the Labour government promoted as being a green tax, an environmental tax. It's got actually nothing to do with that. It is simply the government needs to actually try find ways of recouping some revenue. And they see the travel trade as being a relatively soft target. Now, to give you an example at the moment, in terms of our net fares to Thailand at this moment, we're looking at fares which are around about £350 return to Bangkok as a net fare. If I then add the taxes and the fuel increase, you're looking at 350 to 400 pounds. So a ticket that's actually priced at 350 becomes over 700.
Yes. Is that an impediment to you selling value for money family holidays in this part of the world?
Frankly, if clients are going to a luxury hotel, it's significant, but it doesn't make the difference. If someone is going to a mid-range hotel where they've only budgeted for £700-800, an increase of 150, 200 actually can make the difference. Because for that type of client, that could be their spending money for a week.
Yes, indeed. Indeed. Yeah. Now, the new coalition government in the United Kingdom pledged to rescind that air passenger duty and replace it with a per plane tax.
Yeah.
But the government's been in power for a year, nothing's happened. I mean,
there have been various discussions on that. Apparently, the per plane tax, for whatever reason, seems to be deemed to be illegal. So they've gone back to per passenger. Personally, I do think that looking at our end of the business, which is deluxe, I would rather go per passenger or per plane, because I think if it's per plane, you are then going to find consolidation of services. So you actually could end up with less services than you're starting with at the moment, especially if you look at someone like British Airways and Qantas who offer a pool agreement. I would think they would look at their flight loads a month out and decide that this doesn't make sense, we're offering 3 flights when we could be offering 2. So personally, I'm not in favour of a per plane tax. Generally, I'm not in favour of the high level of tax anyway, especially when you think a country like Holland, which has far more environmental policies than the UK, the taxes are virtually nothing.
Well, I think Holland sought to introduce such a tax and then actually changed its mind.
Yes. Yep.
Seeing common sense
Yep.
amidst all the debate.
Yep.
So there's no indication that the air passenger duty is going to be removed anytime soon?
No, I have to say the Caribbean governments have been extremely vocal in fighting against it, far more so than most of what's happened in Asia.
Their issue, though, David, I think was they wanted to, there's a banding structure in
Yes.
place, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they wanted to be in a lower band, so the penalty imposed upon
Yeah.
travellers was subsequently
Yeah,
less.
basically it's based on a capital to capital. So the level that is from London to Hawaii is actually based on London to Washington. So the Caribbean considered that to be unfair,
Yes.
because one is flying right across the States and going a bit further, and Hawaii is perceived to be a competitor of the Caribbean. Equally, if you say are flying to Australia, the fuel is actually based, the tax is based on London to Canberra, even if you're getting off in Perth. So it hasn't been really thought out properly. I can't see at the moment, given the economic situation in the UK, I can't see the government actually taking away the tax completely. Can it be tweaked to make it slightly more attractive? Probably.
Well, you're a very active member of the Party United Kingdom chapter, David, aren't you? And I know that you've been involved in various discussions over the past couple of years about this controversial issue. I mean, are you continuing to lobby the government in association with other organisations such as APTA, for example?
Yeah, very much so. And I know Party in this region actually has been very active, and I think the governments of Australia and New Zealand have been particularly involved in trying to counteract it. If I go back to the Caribbean as an example, the feeling there is that because of the high level of tax, you're depriving the opportunity of grandchildren going to the Caribbean to visit their grandparents. So it becomes a more political issue. And the Caribbean have been very successful in actually trying to lobby it. And I think there will be changes, and I think it will be inspired by the Caribbean. Yeah. But will it be taken away completely? No.
Let's bring the focus back to Thailand specifically, if we may, David. Thailand is fighting to protect its market share in an increasingly competitive tourism environment, and you've got very aggressive marketing campaigns being run by neighbouring tourist boards in Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia. China now is becoming more of a mainstream for some, a mainstream
Yep.
destination. I mean, what would your message be to the governor of the Tourism Authority of Thailand in terms of how to promote Thailand in the United Kingdom?
Okay, the good thing with Thailand, and there are many good things, the airlift is fantastic out of the UK because you're looking at, on most days, you're looking at a minimum of 4 flights a day on scheduled carriers, plus a whole load more that are coming over the Middle East. So airlift for 48 weeks of the year is not really an issue. Thailand also constantly is innovative and reinvents itself. So the product very rarely becomes stale. So, the repeat business into Thailand, because there's always something new to see. Also, it has the major advantage of being the logical gateway to Indochina. And it will also be the logical gateway for Burma, which is going to be a hot destination in the UK in the next 2 or 3 years. So, Thailand will benefit from that. I find that TAT are extremely good, and as far as I'm concerned, they're very proactive. And Thailand still has many, many advantages, not least that it never gets stale.
So do the number of pages in your brochure for Thailand reflect the demand and the popularity amongst your clientele?
Yes, yeah, and the diversity. And I just look at, with somewhere like Bangkok, you've got real cutting-edge hotels. And I went to see one yesterday that's just opened called the Lit, which I think is just opened 2 days ago. Fantastic cutting-edge design. And where we're doing this interview at the moment, the Ariasam Villas, old traditional Thai hospitality. So you've got the contrast.
Yes.
Whereas there's very few cities in Asia which can actually offer that level of accommodation and everything in between.
It's actually, you're quite right, it's very hard to believe we're here in a very historic house now, operating as a boutique hotel, a stone's throw from the busy Sukhumvit Road.
Yes, yeah.
And I know it's the type of place that you always like to stay in if you possibly can.
It's fantastic because you actually feel that you're in Thailand. It's not just another corporate room.
The Mekong Tourism Forums, which we reported on, there was a delegate from MAS Contour based in Berlin that had produced a report saying that European travellers are now tending to stay much longer in Asia than other source market travellers. They tend to spend more, and you made that point earlier. And they also focused upon that category of travellers known as silver agers or prime time travellers. Wealthy, active, a lot of time on their hands. They've got travel experience and they demand high quality. Is that an important part of your clientele in the UK?
I would agree with everything that the report has said, with the exception of the longer stay. Certainly we're finding that the clients who are looking for more experience-based holidays, that's the key word at the moment, and Thailand offers fantastic experiences on different levels. Yes, they're looking for quality, they're also looking for value for money. One of the things I've always said with our own clientele at Chic Locations is that our clients are very value conscious, but they're not price sensitive. So they are looking for a deal, but they don't want to actually downgrade to a level that they're going to be uncomfortable. And it isn't necessarily they will be uncomfortable with the accommodation, but they might be uncomfortable with the clientele that they're then meeting.
Yes, indeed. So they would rather spend 10 days in a 4-star rather than 20 days in a 2-star.
Correct. Yes. There will be some clients whose time is not an essence. And if you then can say, well, have you realised that if you are not tied on returning back by a certain time, if you spent an extra 2 days, which you will pay for, but then you get upgraded to a deluxe room, you get upgrade to half board, etc., it's much better value if you've got the time to do it. Some clients will say, no, I've got to get back. Others will say, yes, actually, fine, take it.
Indeed.
Yeah.
In the world of information, opportunity only presents itself for a split second. In the world of wireless technology, accurateness and credibility are key. In the world of competition, information determines victory or defeat. Thai ASEAN News Network. Fast, accurate, impartial. Our experienced journalists bring a variety of news and information to you every day. Thai ASEAN News Network, Thailand's first and only 24-hour news channel. Thai ASEAN News Network, the information you need when you need it. Now on True Visions 78.
Welcome back. I'm talking to David Kevin from Chic Locations. David, you've worked in the travel and tourism industry for, over 30 years now, I think. So what's changed in that period? Is the holiday experience of today better than it was 30 years ago, worse, or is it just different?
It's different, yeah. Yes, I've been involved in, it's now approaching 40 years. I find that the challenges are now that it has become an extremely cutthroat market in a way that ethics sometimes go out the window. And I like dealing with hotels where you can build a relationship and you're looking at working together for a long time. You know, the idea of just doing a deal with a hotel that's only going to last 6 months, it's completely alien to me. But you know, that's probably because I don't look at it in a totally 100% commercial way that I've got seats to fill and I need to do this.
Now, when you started in the travel business, of course, there was no such thing as the internet, social media, viral marketing. So tour operators printed a brochure. They relied upon newspaper advertising campaigns and TV campaigns to push their products. And then you relied upon the travel agents essentially to sell on your behalf.
Yes.
I mean, there's been a remarkable change in the way people choose their holiday destinations now.
Yeah, I think at a certain level, clients still like to go back to the brochure. Certainly the older type of client, whilst they are becoming very computer savvy, they still like looking at the printed word. And I think that also tends to differentiate the companies to a degree as well. But without doubt, you know, the way that clients research things on the internet, they can tell whether you're bluffing. They can tell you instantly whether you've actually been to the destination. And that's why, you know, one of the styles that I've tried to introduce at Chic Locations and a number of other companies I've been involved with is that I will always emphasize 5 or 6 plus points and maybe 2 or 3 negatives as well. So I like clients to come back and tell me, David, the holiday was fantastic. It was even better than you told me it was going to be. So I like to tell them the pros and the cons.
So you try to manage client expectations.
Absolutely, yeah.
In the hope that, well, of course, that's good for you in terms of hopefully repeat business, isn't it?
I've been brought up, and so this is my old-fashioned background, but I've been brought up that you under-promise and over-deliver. And I don't understand the other way around.
So is that why, David, you still print the traditional brochure as opposed to relying solely upon an online version, which I think probably many of your competitors now do?
Yeah, I think dealing with the top end of the market, the clients, certainly the more established, the older clients, still like to see a brochure. They feel very comfortable, and it gives a certain credence to the company as well.
Now, Chic Locations is a relatively new player in the UK market. Where are the other principal destinations that you're offering beyond Southeast Asia?
We do the Indian Ocean, so we do Maldives, Seychelles, Mauritius, Sri Lanka. And they're all selling reasonably well, but not as well as maybe they have in previous years. Maldives has become very expensive, and there is a certain price resistance to that. By token, Mauritius is picking up the business that the Maldives is losing. Seychelles, which has become popular because of the royal wedding.
And the honeymoon that followed.
And the honeymoon, etc. So Seychelles has become popular, but again, a very small market. The Caribbean continues to do well. The Caribbean does well, particularly with all-inclusive hotels. Now, that leads me on to something with all-inclusive, is that I've always felt that someone doesn't come to Asia to go to an all-inclusive hotel. But it does have some validity if you're going to an island where you are the only resort on that island. And clients like the idea of paying one price that covers 3 meals a day, and a bottle of wine in the evening. It doesn't need to be any more extensive than that. But they like the guarantee that even if they're booking 6 months out, that price is then constant, and they don't have to worry about fluctuation of exchange rates, etc. So it's a market that something should be at least considered in Asia. It doesn't work if you've got lots of restaurants outside of your property, but if you are on an island with no choice, it actually does make sense.
Yes, I mean, there's very little evidence that the local players in Southeast Asia want to turn towards all-inclusive. Is it going to be a case of the industry driving that demand and maybe trying to get some positive
Certainly on
response?
this trip, I've spoken to 4 or 5 hotels, and again, they're in isolated locations, and have said, is this something that you can consider as an option? Now, it's been a fairly tough sell because they haven't really understood it, because it's not something that they've ever done. But when you explain the advantages, and it's locking the clients into dining within the hotel,
Indeed.
then it makes sense. With our next brochure, that's going to be valid for 2012, there will be at least 7 hotels within Thailand that will be offering the all-inclusive option.
Interesting development, David. I mean, do you think that would strengthen your position in the UK market then, in terms of perhaps attracting different type of clientele to choose chic locations to travel to this part of the world?
Yeah, I think that clients actually are looking for a stability of price. We're very concerned with the fluctuation exchange rates, that if you book a holiday 6 months in advance, that there could be a 20% swing by the time you actually come to pay for your holiday in the destination. And that can impact your spending money. If you know that your basics are covered, then you don't have to worry about it.
David Kevin, it's a great pleasure to see you back in Bangkok, and thank you very much for going on the record.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you, David. Well, that's it for this week's show. My thanks again to David Kevin from Chic Locations, and also to the Hansar Hotel in Bangkok for kindly hosting this final program in our series of highlights. It's been my pleasure to bring you the travel show over the past 7 months, and I want to thank all our guests, but in particular, all the travel industry staff who've worked so hard to help us with our filming on location. Now, the online travel industry news service TTR has been our major source for news in our news roundup segments each week, and I want to pay a special thank you to editor Don Ross for his help and support in promoting the program. My thanks also to Stephen Morton, the editor-in-chief of eGlobal Travel Media, for providing an additional and very exciting online outlet. Now, as I said, all our shows have been made on location, and things in the main have gone pretty much according to plan, but not always. After the break, we take a look at the latest 5-star hotel to open. Do you want to come and help me? I can never remember my words. You could help me as I walk towards the cameras. Oh, thank you, dear. Thank you very much indeed. Is it only water? No whiskey? Me whiskey? Okay, okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, I've lost my thread. It's rambling. I'm Dale Lawrence. Welcome to the Travel Show. Where? I'm joined finally by Vert van... No, I'm not. Okay, count me in. I'm joined finally by Bert van Walbeek. Yes, it's a bit of a mouth.
I'm sorry. Blame my parents.
Indeed. This week's travel show comes to you from Pak Se in southern Laos. It's a 2-day conference and exhibition with the theme Destination Mekong, the Making of a Star. Here's the executive director of the Mekong Coordinating Tourism Office, Mason Florence. No, I got the name wrong. This week, the travel show comes to you from Pak Se in southern Laos. It's a 2-day, no it's not, it's the Mekong Tourism. This week, the travel show comes to you from the Mekong Tourism Forum in southern Laos. No, it's in Pak Se in southern Laos. But until then, from everyone on the travel show, it's goodbye. Well, I hope that was taped because I can't see a red light. Mind me, red light. Working okay? Yeah. Mind me, red light. You turn it off. Oh, very useful.
Turn back.
Thanks for joining us. This week we're in Cha Am, sometimes known as Hua Hin's little sister. It's less developed than Hua Hin, but that's changing, and it's changing fast. And we're seeing new hotels and condominiums opening up right along this stretch of coastline. Now, Cha Am, like Hua Hin, grew in popularity at the start of the 20th century when the railway connecting Bangkok with the Malayan Peninsula was finally completed. The Royal Siamese Railway, with the blessing of King Rama VI, started to promote and develop this stretch of coastline as a tourist destination. And I've forgotten what else I've got to say. But Chiang Mai's airport is served by international airlines operating out of neighboring countries such as China, Taiwan, Korea, and Japan. And these are all important and influential source markets for Thailand. Okay? No. Was that okay? Oh, I don't, do I? Oh, yes, I do. That's right, and then I'm going to turn, yeah. I was concentrating on keeping absolutely still. But what about accommodation at the other end of the spectrum? Join me after the break when I talk to the CEO. No, he's not the CEO. He's not the CEO. So until the same time next week, from everyone on the travel show, including Nina and Saskia, it's goodbye. Thanks, darling. Very good. You want to protect your market share if you possibly can. Sorry, I fell over there. I think we're just going to have to do this. Everyone on the team is goodbye. And that's it. One more time. Oh, okay, we're going to do it one more time. And then when I say it's goodbye, we'd like you to do the why. Okay? Very good. You flying to Chiang Mai? Tamai? For working? Oh. Can I come with you? Sorry. Okay. Next week, I'll bring you more highlights from the travel show, but until then, from everyone on the team, it's goodbye. One more. Bit slow. When you hear me saying it's goodbye. On it's, bring up the why, okay? It was a bit of a delay. Yeah. When I say it's, don't wait till I've said it's goodbye. Say it's as I say goodbye, okay? Well, that's it for this week's show. My thanks to Adel El Masri from the Egyptian Tourism Office, and indeed to all our guests. Next week, I'll bring you more highlights from the travel show, but until then, from everyone on the team, it's goodbye. Well, those outtakes bring this first series of the travel show to an end. We plan to be back next year with a new series for you, but until then, from everyone on the travel show team, it's goodbye. Splish, splash, I was taking a bath.